Welcome to Theo Trade. This is Don Kaufman, March 13th, 2020, doing the weekend update on what has amounted to just unprecedented volatility in this week of trade. Where to even begin on a week, or shall I say weeks like this? First of all, a national emergency for the markets. Over the next few minutes on this weekend's update, I'm going to detail obviously some of the trade action that has happened, okay? But more importantly, okay, we're going to look at some of the present volatility levels, okay, and what we believe we can expect moving forward. Now, I'll throw a quick statement out on that particular front. Really what we see moving forward, and again, I'm going to go through some really highly detailed points over here, is not necessarily per se, okay, a day-to-day take. In this kind of volatility, when there's literally news flashing on the screen in real time, effectively moving markets, 20, 50, 100 S&P handles, okay, in a matter of minutes. We're going to actually project a little further out in time, okay, not based on what we think. We're actually going to base this on what we see presently in the screens. What is the market dictating, okay, to the future? And I think that's one of the things that you really need to focus on right here, right now, because some of you could have had one of the most difficult weeks, really, of your entire investing, trading career, maybe of your life. Some of you had wonderful weeks if you were set up correctly. We're also going to take a detailed look at a couple of my positions throughout the course of this weekend's update. Let's get down to it. First and foremost, well, as you all know, the bear has arrived. The bear has arrived. What does that amount to? We're officially in a bear market. If we take a look at a quick glance here at the spiders, this happens to be specifically a year-to-date chart. I'm going to highlight this for you here for just a moment. Again, it's a year-to-date chart, and I flipped everything over to a percentage view. So here on this Friday afternoon, you have to recognize we just exploded back by the tune of what? 9.3%, right? Okay, so you lose 10%, you gain 10%, but net, we did not do well on the week. Well, I mean, again, still blew out all the estimates of where we expected us to move on this week. The reason this is now termed the bear market, there's over a 20% decline in the market. Again, we're down 17%, but yesterday at the depths of it, down approximately 24% on a year-to-date basis. That's specific to the spiders. If you haven't looked at the Russell, by the way, the Russell just got decimated in some of the trade this week, still down 27%. Small caps, mid caps out there got crushed. All right, neither here nor there. That's, again, it's past tense. And I want this to be, again, much more forward-looking. One of the things, and I was talking about this a lot here on Theo Trade today, the VIX. Okay, the VIX. Let's actually cruise over to the VIX because most of the time, I'll tell you what, with the VIX, I don't look at it a lot. I think this is kind of my predecessor's indicator. It's kind of old school. But I'll tell you one interesting thing about the VIX, and I've seen some fairly enormous VIX prints out there, but yesterday's close, okay, just completely wild. I mean, you're closing in north of the 70 territory. The only thing we have to compare that to in recent history, and by the way, the VIX, they started calculating the VIX in the 1990s. They've actually changed the equation for the VIX a couple of times. The last time they changed the equation for the VIX, okay, I believe was October of 2014. Nevertheless, the VIX actually closed in the mid 70 handle. Okay, it's the fourth highest close on record. And for that, you want to go back and you want to have a party here of like, it's a full-on VIX party, by all means, okay? And there's regression analysis in the VIX that goes back even before the 1990s. That happened to be technically, this is regression analysis, okay, to the 1987 crash. Anyway, with that, okay, the highest VIX close on record, you can go back to 2008 and find time and again in October and November. Nevertheless, okay, it's the fourth highest close of the VIX on record, and that was specific to yesterday, okay? We never hit VIX levels such as we did before on, March 12th, without the S&P 500 immediately and sharply bouncing, okay, by plus 10% over the next 1 to 2 trading sessions. I wanted to point that out because it's something that I actually brought up literally during this trading session before the S&Ps exploded up some 9%. The S&Ps at that point in time when I'm discussing this were only up about 2% on the trading session. Okay. Meanwhile, okay, the VIX, it distinguished a lot in this particular instance over here. And for the most part, it told us a bounce is coming. And that bounce may not necessarily be over. Okay, enough on the VIX front. Let's actually move forward because, again, I feel that that's past tense. All right. The next thing I want to hit has everything to do with you, okay? Everything to do with you. I'm going to paint a picture in the next few minutes here. Be very forthright. It's not going to be too rosy. You may not want to hear it, but I'm going to give you highly detailed reasons, okay, that the marketplace, it's not going to be, okay, warm and fuzzy necessarily moving forward. So one of the things that I'm going to suggest is that many of you, if you have a 401k, if you have an IRA, and you've been told you're in it for the long haul, don't worry, hang on to this one. Listen, okay, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling risk, bail on the bounces if you need to. That's what it means. Bail if needed on rebounds. This is a rebound. It's a 10% rebound. You had every opportunity. Pull the ripcord. I'm not telling you necessarily to bail out of all of your risk, but I am telling you this, okay? If you don't do something and we continue to go down, you had every opportunity to bail on upticks, okay? Bail on rebounds if you need to get out of some of your risk. I cannot stress that enough. I have been through this so many different times in my career, okay? And I don't mind bringing up a max chart on here. I've had, again, over a 20-year career, but it was, like early 2000 time frame, right in this neighborhood here. That's when I actually started working for a brokerage firm called Thinkorswim. And I was there for all of this. I was there for all of this, and I've been here for all of this, and I will be here till it's down here again, okay? Markets are cyclical in nature. We realize that. But I'm not just going to look at a chart and tell you that's why the S&Ps are going to come down. That's just not enough. But I am telling you, okay, focus on your risk. If you're taking risk and you're taking heat, let's put it a different way. A lot of people look at this marketplace. They're like, oh, I'm getting killed. Okay, on a year-to-date basis, that's absolutely true. Okay, it's carnage out there. But if you've been invested for the last 5 years, okay, come on, people. You're still well ahead of the game. You got a nice bounce back up today. So what? You didn't get out at the all-time high. Newsflash. No one ever does. Bail if needed on rebounds. Remember, I'm saying that. Coronavirus. Coronavirus is... This part is my opinion, really only the catalyst in this. This is a crash of ETFs, okay? The marketplace has changed so dramatically in the last 10 years or 11 years since the financial crisis, okay? The influx of ETFs, stock buybacks, okay? It's what I call a Fed-fueled fantasy because the Fed basically lowers interest rates. As the Fed lowers interest rates, it's easy to buy back stock. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example of this. You don't buy into that category over there? Here's the prime example. Take a company like Boeing. Boeing, okay, just a few weeks ago, they took out a $13 billion credit line. What did they do with their $13 billion credit line? Well, part of it was actually set aside to do stock buybacks. So the company has an aircraft that is not flying, okay? They're in a little bit of trouble, but don't worry, they took out a $13 billion line of credit to go out there and to use some stock buybacks. By the way, all of that plan has changed. I'm just making a quick point with this. Why did they take the $13 billion? Speaking of which, okay, they set aside the $13 billion credit line. If you're unaware, Boeing actually took the full $13 billion. Why? Because they turned around this week and they said they needed it. Threw all the plans out the window, okay? This, again, Corona's the catalyst. It's a catalyst to a marketplace that was probably long overdue. And again, I think that's the opinion portion of this entire video, that this marketplace was probably long overdue. But once again, you pull up this maximum chart over here. Hey, maybe, just maybe we got a little over our skis. I think you would probably have to agree with that. But we look at Corona as the catalyst, okay? And it's the catalyst that's going to spark the domino effect to innumerous problems, obviously, with the structure of the market right now. And, why do I point fingers at the ETFs? The irony is, okay, if things get really bad, I bet you anything, the Fed comes out and actually buys ETFs. But let's not get too cynical just yet. Low interest rates, stock buybacks, okay, was a big portion of the issues behind this. Stock buybacks, come on. That's what we're going to get to here in just a moment. All right. Now, the markets. They're under duress, and the Fed, okay, will try, but likely fail in bailing the market out. Initially, you know that the Fed's coming to the rescue, and the Fed has already come to the rescue, okay, with an emergency cut. But if you're unaware, okay, the Fed has a meeting. That meeting is coming next week. All right, coming to a theater near you, the Fed. Here it is. So this is actually the CME group. If you've never seen this before, all right, this is the FedWatch tool. And on this FedWatch tool, the way the FedWatch tool is actually based, okay, happens to be with Fed Fund Futures. All right, so Fed Fund Futures actually price this out. This is a little bit confusing if you've never seen it before, but I'll kind of take you through it just a little bit. The current Fed Fund Futures are sitting at what? Okay, 100, okay, 125. For those of you that are unaware, that's in what we term basis points. That means the Fed Fund Futures are sitting at 1% dash, okay, 1.25%. Now, the next meeting, which is coming up, what? There you go. It's next week. All right, March. We're there, baby. Okay, we're there. March 18th, the next meeting's coming. Here, this is the probability, okay, of a cut from this level to what? 25.50, and a probability of a cut basically to zero. So there's about a 66% probability right now that they actually cut interest rates to zero, somewhere between 0, okay, and 25 basis points, which is 0.25%. So what's the marketplace anticipating right now? They're anticipating rates basically going back to zero, right? There's over a 50% chance that rates are going to go back to zero. Great. What else are they going to do? Because I'm going to tell you right now, that's already priced in. That's why I'm telling you this you better think about long and hard, okay? The markets are under duress. The Fed's already come out, done an emergency cut. What did we do in the emergency cut? We sold into it. Well, that already happened, okay? Newsflash, that was back here. Great. Now, what's the Fed? What else do they have in their sleeve? They came out with the bazooka. What do? Repos. I mean, they're doing, again, $500 billion, okay? They're going to expand that balance sheet by $5 trillion in no time at all. Okay? It's just immeasurable amounts of capital. No one cared. They still sold the market off, okay? And a lot of people are obviously going to point out the marketplace rebounded a little bit, of course, this Friday. Of course it rebounded. Of course it rebounded. That's the dynamics of a sell-off. The dynamics of a sell-off, the most hideous move in the dynamics of the sell-off is typically to the upside. You know, a little while ago when I was talking about the VIX and, you know, those spikes in the VIX, this is the fourth highest closing, you know, VIX level ever. You have to realize, okay, when the VIX hit those levels, okay, in like October of 2008, November of 2008, the most vicious move was back to the upside. Again, you're looking at 5 or 10% moves, and that's exactly, people, what we got. But again, I'm not done on this particular front. This is where I'm going to get to, okay? And this is not the good part here. There's far more trouble ahead. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to rely on the Fed, and the Fed's going to come out, and they're going to do a little dance, right? And Jerome Powell's going to have a speech, okay? But at this point, I think that they have to be a little bit conservative because they do see, okay, that this problem is probably not going away tomorrow. Again, we look at the coronavirus as the catalyst. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's sparking some pretty serious risk out there, but this was bound to happen sooner or later. But the Fed, okay, how much can they do? They can't just spark the entire economy. They can't just start dropping capital from helicopters. No pun intended there, because they're going to do just that. They're actually going to try to drop money from helicopter. They call it helicopter money out there. There's going to try to be what? All kinds of fiscal plans coming out over here. Thus far, the markets have stared and continue to do what? Sell off. Now, let me actually explain to you why there's far more trouble ahead. And this is not going to be a flash in the pan. This marketplace selling off is not going to be a flash in the pan. Now, I want to make sure that I reiterate this. As I started this, I said some of the future statements I'm going to make are going to be based solely on what I see inside of the marketplace. Okay, I tried to extract some of the opinion out of this. Don't get me wrong. We could still bounce. We could bounce all the way back up to 300 here inside of the S&Ps, then come off hard. Okay, but right now, the markets are still pricing in huge amounts of risk. Let's actually get to what I see, okay, in the here and now. What does this tape say? First and foremost, the VVIX. The VVIX, the volatility index. Don't tell me you didn't look at it, because most people didn't. Okay? Most people have not looked at this today because there's a lot of other things going on. The volatility index. Are you aware? The VVIX, which is the volatility of the VIX, okay? Which I use, again, to gauge a little bit more. If I open up option statistics, there was a mass amount of volatility traded, and volatility contracts actually traded in here. All right, 2.3 million VIX contracts traded today. That was on Friday. Same number of calls, puts. All right, okay. Why is the volatility on the VIX up? And again, I'm going to bring up the VVIX. Why is it up? Okay. Typically, when the VVIX is higher, it's indicative of hedging activity. Were you aware that the professional world was actually buying volatility throughout the course of the day? All right, and this is where you better start to pay attention. Now, this is kind of near-term stuff. This isn't necessarily a week from now, a month from now. This is next week. This is next week, okay? Somebody is still very concerned because the VVIX continues to vault to the upside. In fact, if you open up a 3-year weekly, okay, back here, that was the VIX explosion. That was one of the most serious incidents we ever saw inside of the VVIX, except they just keep buying volatility, and they bought volatility today, okay, pretty much right up into the point we closed. Volatility didn't crush down, and the S&Ps exploded up, okay, but almost 10%. Keep that in mind. The next thing on your screen, by the way, I never look at one indication. The next thing on your screen, if you're looking at volatility futures, you're looking at it all wrong. First of all, the volatility futures themselves, they did come down. They came down, not that much, okay? But you're looking at the wrong volatility futures. You don't want to look at the March volatility futures. We're rolling, okay? We're rolling full over here. You want to look right now, okay, at these. And when I say these, right there. Okay, this happens to be the April volatility futures. They're still at 44 and change. We are just wildly inverted in terms of volatility, but they're only down $1.65. Okay, I mean, I've seen days where the S&Ps are up 20 points. I'm not joking. I've seen days where the S&Ps are up 20 points, not 215, but days where the S&Ps are up 20 points and the vol futures are down 1.5 points. Look, go look at it in a chart. Okay, it's the VX. Okay, J20. Just pull up the J20. Okay, what do you got? You got a chart. You tell me, you think risk is abating in there right now? Okay, this thing is just, again, it's still exploding to the upside. Looks just like the VVIX. All right. Now, one of the other reasons that we believe, okay, trouble ahead. Well, this weekend's going to have a lot of what? Board meetings. Here come the warnings inside of the S&P 500 market. Now, this is maybe a little bit of opinion. Okay, but we've already heard warnings from a number of S&P 500 companies, except what? We've only heard a handful of warnings. Okay, where are the warnings? We are in such a disruptive time in this marketplace that most of the companies haven't even warned yet. And we're at a critical point in their quarter. Everybody has to warn or they're going to face suits. Okay, investors don't like when companies do not warn. Everybody has to start warning. If their profitability is off, okay, you are going to get a warning. It is going to be warning shots across the bow next week. AVGO today, which is Broadcom, they warned. Okay, they warned, but here's the irony. The stock still got pulled up 7%. Still got pulled up 7%, right? Most of the 2020 earnings estimates are completely out the window. The warnings are coming. Mark that in your head because it is going to be the next round of risk. Okay. Last on this list of like tech is, or I should say is trouble ahead. Tech, it's just not immune. And it has been immune at this point in time. And I'm actually going to project forward with a little bit of a position over here. I was talking about Apple. And I was specifically talking about Apple on Wednesday night. And there's one thing that was striking to me about Apple, and that's why I mentioned it on the Wednesday night video. Apple still traded at the 275 level. That's exactly what I was saying. And ironically, now it's back to 277. This is an underlying that's been relatively unscathed. Okay, this is an underlying that also, okay, is the primary product. Oh, by the way, Apple's only down, some 7%. Right? This is also the primary product in almost every mutual fund, every 401k, every IRA, every mom and pop that has any retirement fund holds some Apple stock in some way, shape, or form. They hold, look at this, Microsoft up almost 14.22%. It's almost up on the year again. Tech is not immune. All right? This, again, projecting forward, believe this is the place to be short, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So we have to actually justify how to take a short position either in Microsoft, Apple, okay? Where else might I do it? Yeah, I look at Amazon, Okay, but Amazon becomes a little bit of a behemoth. And Amazon's down about 6%. I took a look at Google, and Google's still down 11%. Again, all of the tech companies are not immune, but I'm really specifying in terms, okay, of Microsoft and Apple. And it's not, again, right now we're seeing what we kind of call a knee-jerk reaction to the downside of the marketplace, right? That is the risk that's right in front of us. It has to do with coronavirus. The banks are getting hit hard. It's brutal. The small caps are getting decimated, okay? Why isn't tech catching up? Because you haven't given it time yet. And there's one thing about a marketplace, okay, and specifically a bear marketplace, and that's this. Sooner or later when they hit them, they're going to hit them all. And I'm telling you, okay, if you're looking for positions moving forward, you're going to have to go into things like Microsoft and Apple. You're not going to catch a top and you're not going to catch a bottom. But I will tell you, in something like Microsoft, two different things come to mind. First of all, Microsoft doesn't have earnings until what? Mid to late April. You're fine. You could actually come out here and use a defined risk spread. This is where if we rally a little bit more come Monday, okay, I might go in here, and again, the bid offer spreads are so wide you could drive a truck through them. I might come in here and buy, this is a 250 wide spread. This spread should really be trading for about $1.25, and it will be trading for $1.25, right? Give it time, let the marketplace settle out a little bit, okay, because we're going to get some great opportunities. I will put together a specific spread in Microsoft, okay, if that rally again, kind of consumes us a little bit, if you will, and continues to rally on the upside. Because I think this one it's ripe for the plucking. For those of you that are willing to take a little bit more risk, okay, a straight out delta position in here would be to use, okay, an in-the-money option. Just buy an in-the-money put or short the stock outright. I would never short the stock outright with rip-your-face-off rallies when stocks are moving 15%. Okay, you want to see something, and listen, I hate to be so frank, but stupidity in this marketplace is shorting stock. Stupidity in this marketplace is shorting stock. There's no reason to do it anymore. Go out 7 days, okay, use an 85 or 90 or 100 delta option, okay, go out and buy it. Why? Who cares? This is like a stop order built in over here. If you buy an option for $9 and the stock tanks, right? If you buy a put option for $9 and this stock just tanks, you're getting a 1-for-1. You're getting 1-for-1. If it goes down $20, you're going to make $20 on $9. And if the stock explodes to the upside, what are you going to lose? You can't lose more than $9. Why would you ever consider shorting stock in today's marketplace? Okay, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And you better think about these things in terms of volatility. You're like, but Don, that trade's only for 7 days. No, it's not. If it works after 7 days, roll it out in time. Roll it out in time. Roll it out in time. I'm just getting you synthetically short. It's important that you do one or the other. Spreads are actually going to mitigate your risk. You start just buying in the money options, it means you're serious, okay? And you are at that point in time. So again, tech's not immune. And again, far more trouble ahead in this marketplace. This is not going to be a flash in the pan. Now, SPX expected move. Let's actually pull up the SPX for just a moment. This is what I often term the mother of all products. Grab hold of this. 7 days out, okay, which is next Friday. That's a $226 expected move. $226 expected move. Do you know what that looks like on a chart? Okay, $226 expected move. I can't reiterate this enough. This week we just passed through, we had a $161 expected move. I mean, okay, the S&Ps, they were off 261 points for the week. Okay, 261 points for the week is what we fell. But the expected move this past week was only about 160. So what did we do? We crossed through the expected move and just kept on going. Listen, now we've bumped to $226 expected move. And again, I was talking about this. If those of you have tuned in a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, remember what I said. We went through a period of incredible efficiency. There were 23 weeks in a row right here. 23 weeks in a row. We closed inside the expected move. Now, zoom in for a second. Okay, zoom in over here for a second. Take a look. Now, what do we see? There's a week we crossed through the expected move. Crossed through it, crossed through it, crossed through it. Okay, right there. Yeah, that's actually a cross through the expected move. So is that. It's a breach. They're breaching expected moves. We breached the expected move. Right here. Okay, right here. Previous week, we actually closed inside the expected move. Yeah, before outright tanking. Okay, think about this for a second. The market is totally breaking apart. It's coming apart at the seams. It is not going to contract anytime soon. However, I argue that this next week, that the volatility is so high that we're very likely to close inside the $226 and $26 move. Again, we have a high probability, which actually means for the first time that you've heard me say this in a very long time, we're going to start nibbling on selling options premium again. We're going to sell options premium. Nobody wants to do it. It's the time to do it, people. Sell side is once again becoming a little bit more evident. Now, as I promised you, I'm actually going to wrap up here by showing you my account. Okay. Why am I showing you account? I've had enough. Okay. I had bearish trades on. I had long volatility trades on. But when I tell you that I've had enough, I've had enough. And by having enough, I simply mean I pulled the ripcord on almost my entire position. Now, I still have, okay, tons of positions in here. Tons of positions in here. Okay. In my book right now, I'm actually running about $177,000. Okay. Granted, I have portfolio margin, so I'm actually running close to about $500,000 of positions right now. Now, my $500,000 position, and I just want to show you this, a $500,000 position with a 9 or 10% move, and you see all the different positions that are on in here. Okay, that position isn't taking even $1,000 of risk today. I pulled the ripcord. I exited most of my bearish risk. Okay, it has been an incredible 3-week period. And it's not popular to see, you made money or who made money or who lost money. Okay. It has been an incredible week. This is the beginning of a massive opportunity. It is too early. I don't want to hear that you're like, I'm buying this and I'm buying this. You sit tight. Okay. There's going to be better opportunities. We're getting there, people, but we ain't home yet. There is a lot more risk to come in this marketplace. What we're seeing right now, again, it's not a flash in the pan. It is a national emergency for the markets. Things are going to have to get a lot more serious. You're going to get downright ugly. Remember, bailiff needed on rebounds. Okay, cash is not a bad thing to have because the opportunities are going to be unfolding. We're just going to have to be a little bit more patient. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here at TheoTrade for this weekend's update. Bye-bye.